Something important is quietly building around the Cincinnati Bengals. And it isn't just about wins and losses. There are several conversations happening at the same time that could end up defining the direction of this team. Some involve Joe Burrow, others involve roster construction, defensive changes, future contracts, and the decisions that still haven't been made. Individually, each topic is interesting. Together, they paint a much bigger picture about where this organization is heading. Before we jump into everything, if you're passionate about the Bengals and don't want to miss in-depth coverage like this throughout the season, make sure to like this video and subscribe. This is the place where we break down the biggest stories surrounding Cincinnati and discuss what they could really mean for the team moving forward. Now, let's get to what really matters. One of the biggest discussions surrounding the Bengals right now revolves around Joe Burrow, but not because of his talent. Very few people question his ability anymore. Instead, the conversation centers around accountability and what happens if this season doesn't unfold the way everyone hopes. Nationally, the discussion surrounding Burrow has become incredibly predictable. Almost every debate follows the exact same formula. People acknowledge his talent, praise his ability as one of the league's elite quarterbacks, and then immediately bring the conversation back to health. The criticism almost always stops there. The storyline has become that when Joe Burrow is healthy, he belongs among the very best quarterbacks in football. But locally, the conversation has a little more nuance. Those who have watched every snap of Burrow's career have seen incredible performances, unforgettable moments, and games where he carried the offense almost entirely on his shoulders. They've also seen situations where, despite playing at an extraordinary level, there were still a handful of plays left on the field that could have changed the outcome. That doesn't suddenly erase everything else that happened around him. There were seasons where injuries complicated everything. There were games where defensive struggles made victories nearly impossible. There were situations where coaching, roster construction, and execution all contributed to disappointing results. The source repeatedly emphasizes that Burrow has often been playing under difficult circumstances rather than operating with the complete support expected from a championship roster. Still, that doesn't completely remove the quarterback from the discussion. The expectation placed upon a franchise quarterback making franchise quarterback money is naturally different. When someone is viewed as the face of the organization, every victory and every defeat becomes attached to them, fairly or unfairly. The interesting point raised is not that Burrow lacks accountability. In fact, there are multiple examples where he openly accepted responsibility after disappointing performances. Games where the offense failed to produce points. Situations where turnovers changed the outcome. Moments where he stood in front of the media and admitted that the performance simply wasn't good enough. Those examples exist. The larger question becomes, what happens moving forward? If Cincinnati encounters adversity this season, despite making improvements around the roster, what will Burrow's message be after difficult losses? Will the conversation remain centered on outside factors, or will he continue taking responsibility regardless of what happened elsewhere? It's less about assigning blame and more about leadership. The source makes it clear that Burrow remains the biggest reason the Bengals are consistently discussed as a postseason contender. Without him, many of these conversations wouldn't even exist. But at the same time, greatness often comes with expectations that border on impossible. If someone is considered among the very best at his position, people naturally expect nearly perfect performances every single week. Another topic creating plenty of intrigue is the belief that Cincinnati isn't finished building this roster. The expectation presented is that another meaningful contributor will eventually be added before the season gets underway. Not simply another training camp body, not another player fighting for the final roster spot. Someone expected to make the team and contribute. The biggest question isn't whether an addition will happen, it's where. Several positions remain possibilities. Linebacker continues to generate discussion because many observers still believe the room could use additional help and proven experience. Cornerback also stands out because even if confidence exists in the projected starters, depth at the position becomes incredibly important over the course of a long NFL season. Injuries happen. Competition changes quickly. A position that appears stable in July can suddenly become one of the biggest concerns by October. That's why the next veteran signing may reveal quite a bit about how the Bengals evaluate their own roster heading into the season. Whichever position gets addressed first could provide insight into what the organization views as its biggest remaining weakness. Another fascinating development involves Al Golden and the defensive vision he continues trying to build. One specific role continues appearing in discussions: the Viper. It's an ambitious concept. The ideal player would rush the passer, hold the edge against the run, and still possess enough athletic ability to comfortably drop into coverage. Finding someone capable of excelling in all three responsibilities is obviously much easier said than done. That's why so much attention has shifted toward the players who might actually fit that description. According to the discussion in the source, Boy Mayfield is viewed as one possible candidate capable of growing into that role after arriving from Seattle. The other intriguing possibility is rookie second-round selection Cassius Howell. Rather than asking one player to become an elite pass rusher immediately, the defensive vision appears focused on versatility. Can someone pressure quarterbacks? Can they defend against the run? Can they contribute in coverage when needed? If a player can perform all three responsibilities effectively, it opens up countless possibilities within the defensive scheme. That's what makes this storyline worth following throughout training camp and into the regular season. The discussion also points out that expectations surrounding Cassius Howell differ from those surrounding other recent young defenders. Instead of carrying enormous pressure to immediately transform the defense by himself, Howell enters a room where several other players are already expected to contribute. That could allow him to develop naturally while gradually earning responsibilities within Golden's system. If he eventually becomes that versatile defender capable of handling multiple assignments, the defense gains another valuable chess piece instead of relying on one-dimensional specialists. Finally, another major question focuses on the future of Chase Brown. This isn't simply about the upcoming season. It's about whether he'll still be wearing a Bengals uniform beyond it. The argument presented is straightforward. Brown has become one of the offense's most productive players. His ability to contribute as both a runner and receiver makes him particularly valuable within Cincinnati's offensive system. Pass protection matters. Receiving ability matters. Running inside matters. Running outside matters. According to the discussion, Brown checks every one of those boxes, while consistently producing significant yardage from scrimmage. That raises an obvious question. If a player continues delivering that level of production, why wait? The source argues that pursuing an extension sooner rather than later could make more sense than allowing the situation to become increasingly expensive in future seasons. Of course, contract negotiations are never that simple. Player expectations, market value, salary structure, future priorities. Every one of those factors influences the final outcome. Still, the belief expressed is that Brown has earned serious consideration for a long-term commitment if the financial expectations remain within a reasonable range. When all of these discussions are combined, a much larger picture begins to emerge. This isn't just about one player. It isn't just about one contract. It isn't just about one defensive position. It's about how the Bengals respond to the expectations surrounding this season. Can Joe Burrow continue leading through both victories and adversity? Which veteran addition arrives before the season begins? Will the defense successfully implement the versatile identity Al Golden appears to be pursuing? Can players like Boy Mayfield and Cassius Howell become important pieces within that vision? And will Chase Brown remain a foundational part of Cincinnati's future? Those questions don't have definitive answers today. But over the coming months, every practice, every roster move, every press conference, and every game will gradually provide them. That's why this upcoming stretch feels so important. The talent is there. The expectations are enormous. Now everyone will be watching to see how those expectations translate once the season truly begins. What do you think about all these storylines surrounding the Bengals? Which one will have the biggest impact on the team's future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And, as always, Who Dey?